Please welcome Noah Wagner, writer, director, and head of AI innovation at Echobend.
Good morning, everyone. I hope we're feeling energized this morning. Thank you to everyone for being here, to Upscale for having me at this wonderful potluck of creative ideas. It's an honor to be here. My name is Noah Wagner. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a writer, director, filmmaker, and the head of AI and innovation at Echobend Pictures down in Los Angeles. So my talk is called Nothing Has Changed, which I know is a weird title for a talk about AI and filmmaking, because obviously a lot is changing. The tools are changing, the timelines are changing, the access is changing, and I want to acknowledge that feeling because I feel it too. I feel a lot of pressure to keep up with everything. I know that kind of pervades throughout the whole community. But the more I integrate AI tools into my own process and into my own filmmaking mindset and muscle, because it is a muscle using AI, the more I keep coming back to the same thing, that the fundamentals haven't changed. So I want to acknowledge the feeling that comes with rapid change. There's a lot of uncertainty that comes with that. But uncertainty isn't always a negative thing. Whenever there are cracks in the status quo, I think that also means that there's possibility in the uncertainty, if you know where to look for it. So let's address this fruit that's on the screen behind me. I think the best creativity comes from discovery. And for the last decade or so, though, I kind of feel like a lot of the stories that we've been fed and that we've been allowed to tell aren't very fresh. It's sort of as if a lot of the low-hanging fruit has been plucked. And it's felt like you needed permission from the gatekeepers to even attempt to unlock the resources you need for some of the most ambitious fruit. I also feel like history rhymes. I keep thinking about the earlier moments from cinema history. I think about the 1920s and the studio systems that were just inventing themselves and creating a stable of filmmakers with their own stories to tell. Or better yet, the 1960s and the 1970s, kind of the new Hollywood era, when that same studio system was weakening and cheaper, more flexible production tools gave way to a new generation of exciting filmmakers like Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, everyone with their own stories to tell. And that even continues through YouTube coming into existence, TikTok, social media, DSLRs becoming available. History constantly rhymes if you listen for it. And I'm not saying that the current moment is exactly like those moments, but it does rhyme. The difference is, or at least one of the differences, is that you don't need a giant studio to give you permission. You and your collaborators can be that studio. So I'm pretty optimistic because I've seen history rhyming over and over again. But before we go too much further, a little bit about me. And don't mind my mini-me back here, although I guess I'm the mini-me in this case. I'm a traditional live-action director and writer, and I've been in the AI world for a little over a decade. I spent the first decade of my career in-house at HBO, where I was kind of a writer, director, editor, producer, creating BTS across all of their shows: Game of Thrones, Westworld, Silicon Valley, Ballers, sports, boxing, documentaries, pretty much everything. And basically my job was to interview all of the best showrunners, writers, directors, actors, heads of department, and ask them how they do what they do, and then would absorb that into my own process as a filmmaker outside of my life at HBO as well. And ultimately it was kind of the premium version of the same equation, that the importance of craft, story, collaboration, taste, was the most important thing regardless of medium. And then in 2016, I directed a live-action short film about AI called Watchroom. It starred Mamadou Ache, who was in most recently The Drama and Kinds of Kindness, and Jacob Batalon, who plays Ned Leeds in all of the Spider-Man films. And the film was basically about these three computer scientists who are testing AI within the safety of a virtual reality simulation, basically running these scenarios so that when they release the technology to the public, it's working for humanity and not against it. And at a certain point, the AI learns at risk of being shut down and sort of turns the table on its creators. So sort of like a story about red teaming. So let me play a quick clip for you, and then I'll give you a little bit more context.
What was that about self-modifying?
Bernie.
We might as well roll back to static UFs.
That's bullshit, and you know it. A hybrid system's the only way forward.
The guy's dead, Chloe, again.
Okay, so we do what everyone else is doing? Great idea.
Nice.
Nate, are you there?
Holy shit.
Thank you. So we consulted for this film with some of the world's leading AI scientists, like the top AI scientists, especially here in Silicon Valley, in order to ensure accuracy for the film. And so for me, AI was more of a story question and a human question before it was a production question. And in the process of making the film, I got an early look at early LLMs and image manipulation about like 2016, 2015, and it melted my brain that this is where things were going. And it gave me goosebumps that we were on the precipice of this world. And so that kind of primed me to be an early adopter as the tools became more publicly available. Because I just kind of find AI to be very, very empowering. I come from an editing background originally, and so my live action process was already editing the whole film in my head, putting it into shot list form. I could see it, but I could only write it. And so now this has been sort of an extension of that. I think about, if you've ever seen those videos of like a deaf child being given cochlear implants for the first time, and they're hearing things for the first time, and it brings tears to their eyes because they've gained a new sense. That's kind of what my experience was when I first started playing with the AI tools, because it really felt like I had kind of a third limb coming from my mind's eye being able to express itself. Now, in addition to my directing, I'm the head of AI and innovation at Echobend Pictures, which was born out of live action about 5 years ago. But just like myself, I feel like it become a kind of a hybrid AI and live action studio that functions as a full-service creative agency, production, post, music, sound, across everything from music videos, commercials, branded content, features, podcasts. If you listen to the podcast Dear Future, we produce that. And then beyond that, we're very community-oriented. We're a bunch of kind of formerly lone wolves, and so we kind of found each other and created this very open-hearted wolf pack, if you will. We kind of treat the place like a free WeWork, and we host events and panels and kind of try to create an ecosystem for people to meet other great creatives, kind of like a little bit of a creative watering hole. So not all of what I'm about to show you on our sizzle is AI by any means, but this is just to give you a breadth of kind of the work that we do.
When I get home, I want you.
Are you interested in my body?
When I get home,
Wash.
I want you.
Sydney Sweeney. Body wash, Genie?
Hello, 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 I got places to be.
It's the whore.
Hello, I got places to be. Pretty brown, got me weak in the knees. Slow up, yo, hold me
Nothing
down.
bad is happening here.
Give me your hand! Put up on the gas, running up numbers, shifting the axis like I was NASA. What if you believe it, but a man on the moon, and damn what I gotta do.
Experience, sophistication.
Hello, I got places to be.
I declare someone.
Places to be.
So kind of a wide range of things. So the next thing I want to quickly talk about is my and our philosophy around AI. There's kind of two main tenets. The first of which is necessity is the mother of invention, which I believe is a quote by Plato, but I think he'd be cool with me borrowing it because I think he'd be into AI tools. I'd love to see what he would make. And the reason that that's important is I feel like every project that comes in is its own new, unique problem to solve, which nothing has changed there. That's been true since before AI tools, but the difference now is that none of us have used these tools in the order that we're using them ever before. All of us are are doing new things and breaking new ground. And so every project is a unique problem to solve. Every shot within that project is a unique problem to solve. And often we're having to invent new ways of doing things on the fly, which is, again, very exciting because the best creativity is a product of discovery. And then the second one is maximizing creativity. I think budgets have always been a critical part of filmmaking, obviously, and they come in all shapes and sizes. But I think the right mindset when it comes to AI is not how do I save money with it, but how do I use AI to maximize our creativity and make our money go further. Because I think if you go into any AI or any AI-adjacent project with an abundance mindset rather than a scarcity mindset, I think it's just generally a healthier way to approach things. I think there's no doubt you'll save money in some way, shape, or form in the end, but if you go in trying to do the most with your money, everything's going to work out in the end. So let me show you a recent example of a commercial where AI was involved that I directed for Amazon and Pet Armor. And this was a really special project, even if it doesn't feel like AI was involved at first glance. The premise of the campaign was basically that dogs and cats aren't really their best selves when they don't have like a play area to express themselves and burn off steam, which in turn affects like adoption rates at shelters because a lot of them don't have space. So in association with Best Friends Animal Society, we selected the shelter in rural Texas, just outside of Dallas, that was in desperate need of a permanent dog park and a catio, which is a word that I learned on this job. And it kind of culminated in this adoption day in which the shelter quadrupled their all-time adoption record, and 94% of all the animals in the shelter were adopted, which was wild. And then beyond that, Amazon released this platform on their website to help facilitate adoptions across the country based on the needs of their owner. So where did AI help us? Well, let me show you the commercial first, and then I'll break it down.
Playgrounds help pets get adopted, but many shelters don't have one. And just 6% more adoptions would make every U.S. shelter no-kill. So Pet Armor delivered a permanent catio and dog park to a shelter in need. With Pet Armor's flea and tick protection and an outdoor space that lets their personalities shine, pets become more ready for a home. Find adoptable pets on Amazon.
Needless to say, morale was like very high on that shoot. Like they didn't always cooperate, but it was fine. So there were 3 main shots where AI helped us on this project, all of which we did in Magnific. And 2 of which are probably pretty obvious, the impossible time lapses of the dog park and the catio. I had the original idea to do this when we were actually on set shooting our drone coverage of the dog park and getting our establishing shot of the catio, because I knew we had a lot of information to convey in 30 seconds, and there wasn't a lot of real estate, and I figured we're going to have like 4 seconds probably to convey the full extent to which we built these permanent structures. And honestly, if we didn't have AI tools at our disposal, we would have had to settle for just the completed structures and then relying on voiceover and then the audience having to do that math. And that's just not nearly as fun or visceral and instinctive as showing it. And so in order to accomplish this, we created empty plates using a combination of Nano Banana and Photoshop, and then generated the moves using Seeddance and Kling to sort of do the push-in. But these are the actual structures that we built, and then we used AI to sort of bring those things to life. But the third place where we used AI is pretty invisible. Basically because filming with animals is very unpredictable, we plan to capture a variety of different locations and interactions and frame sizes, and then kind of figure out the animal montage at the end when we were in the edit. And so when we figured out the perfect sequence, it ended up that we had this Boston Terrier here, which, by the way, it's very important that you know his name is Lord Queso Von Taco. And he only responded to my liege. At least we thought that. Anyways, you see him kind of running over this ramp. And then the next shot, we knew he was our hero dog to be licking the hero employee's face. But the thing was, we couldn't actually get the dog to run up to her. We actually had to put chicken on the far side of her face, which is a trick I learned from the trainer, so that LQ here, because Lord Queso Von Taco is a mouthful, would stay there licking her face, which we thought was fine for our final shot. And, it's very nice. But once we established that the dog is running over the ramp in the preceding shot, we thought it'd be really elegant and nice if Lord Queso ran across the screen. So in order to do this, the first thing we did was take an original still from our edit where we wanted things to sync up. And this is an actual thing that was shot. And then we nano-bananaed our way to a shot of our employee with her arms outstretched, kind of expecting an off-screen dog. Then we prompted for the dog to run up to her and start licking her face. And then to unify the two shots, originally we used Sora 1 for our rough cut, and then that tool magically disappeared midway through the process. So we managed to color match on our own, and the result was this. But fortunately, I think Magnific's coming out with a new tool called, I think, Fix Mode that's in closed beta right now. But fortunately, that's finally going to get fixed, because I don't know about you guys, but it bothers me so much when you do first frame, last frame, join those things together, and you get those little like hinges in the edit. But as you can see, the dog never really ran up to the woman on set. We managed to create that afterwards and seamlessly integrate that into our edit. And so Amazon is one example of this, with live action at the center, AI around the edges, kind of helping us solve very specific production problems. But I don't think there's one correct ratio of live action to AI. I think every story has to tell you what it needs. So, for example, we're currently prepping for a feature that I'm directing and co-wrote called The Dirty Oyster. And The Dirty Oyster is a magical realism romance about this restaurant called The Dirty Oyster, where you're guaranteed to meet your true love before you leave if you eat their oyster bisque. It's the only thing that they serve. It's sort of like a Before Sunrise meets Alice in Wonderland. And these visuals are also, by the way, just tonally representative of the film, not literal, because for this project, the human chemistry is the whole point. Ultimately, this is a romance between two people for an audience of people, so nothing has changed there. I like to believe that that type of chemistry isn't something that can be simulated, at least not yet. But AI will be hugely helpful for enriching environments, insert shots, and overall kind of maximizing what we're able to do. And so we'll be filming with real actors using a clever combination of on location and in studio, kind of using Gaussian splats and things like that. And so this film wasn't originally written to be any sort of AI film. This was rooted very much in my and my writing partners' own experiences with love and with our mindsets, our outlooks on the world, being a romantic, being a skeptic, and taking you kind of halfway to the other side. But I do get goosebumps from the timing of all of this, that the technology is arriving just as we're setting out to make this film into the fullest version of itself. Now, the last project I'd like to talk about is something brand new. For the past couple of months, I've been working on this 3-part, 22-minute animated series commissioned by a new studio called Nura. And the series is called Rainbow Hollow. And it's my own original concept, it's my own IP, and it was inspired by something very real from my own life. And so what I'm about to show you is the world premiere of the first 2 minutes of the pilot. So let's play it first, and then I'll provide a little bit of context about it.
He ran toward what the rest of us run from. When something burned up, Milo fought to keep it here. But he doesn't have to fight anymore. We return his body now to the earth, and the rest to the sweep of eternity. Milo's end of endings begins.
Hey there, neighbor.
Oh my God!
Oh, flattered, but no, Lazarus. Lassie. Next plot over.
I'm dead. I mean, like Oh my God!
Damn me to hell. Where are my manners? Congratulations. How? Well, it's a good thing you didn't go out in a blaze of glory. Come on! We're bound for Rainbow Hollow!
Rainbow? What?
you're going to have to tune in to find out where that poll goes. So the idea for Rainbow Hollow came to me in 2019. I was at the funeral for a dear friend of mine, Michael Caney, and also my producer, one of my producers, who passed away from cancer far too young. He was actually one of the producers on Watchroom, which I showed earlier, and he lived right here in San Francisco, had a production company not far from here. And he believed in me earlier than most people, and he always just told me when in doubt to create. So I was at his funeral, I was watching his casket being lowered, and this flash of an idea came to me. I don't know why. And maybe it's because I'm generally a romantic, nostalgic person who tends to anthropomorphize a lot. But I figured, death sucks. There's really no good way to put a body to rest. You're taking a body, you're putting it in a small box, you're covering it with 6 feet of dirt, and then putting it underground. That's just super claustrophobic. And the alternative is burning the body into ash. There's just no good way to put a body to rest. And so I had this flash of an idea that was a sad funeral, and then the camera descends below, and you just hear a, "Hey there, neighbor," and I just kind of felt like that gave me a lot of peace to imagine that all of our loved ones might live in this society, at least 6 feet underground, living out eternity and not confined to a box. And so my instinct for this project was that this was claymation, I think, to offset the heaviness of the topic. But this was 2019, and I had just actually produced a literal claymation video, which took 4 months, and so I did not think we were going to have the resources to do something like this. So I figured this was an idea that was going to sort of be living on in my Notes app forever. So then flash forward to 2026, and I was commissioned to do an animated series not too long ago, and this idea popped back in my head, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity to bring this idea to life and to keep Mike's memory alive. And so the development of Rainbow Hollow has been no different than any of my live-action projects for the most part. It started with a story outline, started with a script written by my longtime writing partner, Michael Kohler, who also wrote Watchroom and is my co-writer on The Dirty Oyster. And much like a Mid-Journey image, I feel like my idea started as these vague flashes of light and outlines. I can see shadows, I can see tone, I can see broad strokes, but with my writing partner, I'm able to we're sort of brainstorm together, serve as each other's therapists. It's a very, very healthy thing, and together it kind of all comes into view. And so we landed on this story of a firefighter who dies an untimely death and learns about Rainbow Hollow and what happens after you die, and realizes his wife wants to be cremated. So he decides to set out to kill her for her own good so that they can live out eternity deep underground. And here's just a quick animation test that we did.
Sorry, little guy.
And once I knew Seed Dance could handle claymation violence, I knew we were set. So from there, I created some initial character renders. These are a combination of Midjourney, GPT-2, Nano Banana, the latter two of which you can get on Magnific. And you can do this with original photography too. There's really no end to the combination of things you can do to create an AI piece. And then I create close-ups and wides and 360-degree character sheets. I do this for characters, environments, props. There's really no detail too small to really drill down and put as much intention into every frame as you can. And I do this whether it's live action or animation. Again, nothing has changed there. And I make the distinction between the two because I feel like even photoreal animation with AI is still, or photoreal AI is still animation, which means it's a slightly different mindset and there's a lot of downstream things because there's nothing worse than putting a firefighter's hat on a character and then realizing later on that you need to make changes, and so then you have to go backwards. And then I try to create first frames as best I can using Nano Banana and GPT-2, and then put that cocktail of ingredients into motion in an omni-reference tool like Seed Dance or Kling or Google Omni. As far as editing is concerned, my process is a little unorthodox. I do generally recommend, especially if you're working as a team, to do all your first frames before moving into motion, just so you can kind of keep everything under one umbrella. I've always sort of felt like, however, I sort of felt like if you do all of those images in a row, it's sort of a series of tableaus, and the videos that you get out of that and the edit you get out of that feel like they were composed for each image, rather than being based on how the kinetic motion of those shots go together in the edit. And so I direct everything with the edit in mind, and so I generally try to craft one shot at a time, or a small series of shots, sort of laying the track in front of the train as I go in Premiere. But I'm not riding blind. I have the script and I have what's going on in my mind's eye, but this gives me the freedom to remain open-minded to what the tools are giving back to me, and actually to become inspired by some of the hallucinations and weird happy accidents and creative discoveries that I have. Like earlier, you saw Lazarus pull a Milo up by the head out of that hole. I didn't prompt it to do that. I was really trying to do it normal, and then I thought, that's super silly. I have to include that. Yeah, again, it just keeps you open to not having to downstream change a bunch of stuff afterwards. And then the other essential piece for me is sound. Ironically, I think cinema is 60% sound, 40% visuals, and I think for trailers, where I come from originally, it's even higher than that. I generally like to record humans for my main characters. I just feel like they add an intangible level of imperfection and humanity to your characters, and the actors will come up with something that you could never predicted. There's that phrase that the eye is the window to the soul, and I would just amend that to say that the voice is the instrument of the soul. And with that said, I do use 11 Labs quite a bit as well, especially for my side characters, for voiceover. It's like pretty insane how you can coach some of these characters and performances. And as the old adage goes, this is the worst it'll ever be. So, the process is always changing. And then I always, always, always hire a sound designer and a Foley artist, and get the best one you can. They add so much to the project. Even if you're doing a lot of it in your edit, they add so much more to it. You can do a lot with sound libraries and generating hero sounds using AI, but I'm all about the utmost control and precision. And so I like the imperfections, and I like the creative custom layering that a talented Foley artist can provide. And this is no different than an animation process, where sound is what brings all of these manufactured images to life. And here's some stuff from our Foley session for Pet Armor. And so to finish things off, I'd like to return to our tree, which we can't even get into because we're on the outside looking in. I feel it in my bones that we're on the verge of a new kind of artistic renaissance. I think there's going to be an explosion of creativity, and we all get to be a part of that. If I've learned anything from history, I feel like audiences don't fundamentally care what tool you use, so long as you move them emotionally, you make them laugh, you make them cry, you entertain them. The sell is not the tech, the sell is the story and the human emotion. And so I think the gates to your vision are crumbling, and I think there are fruit to be picked again. I think we live in a historic time where each of us is literally trailblazing, and so we have a responsibility to be thoughtful about the work that we do and to be intentional about the work that we do. I remember at Upscale, Martin was saying the difference between art and slop is intention, and I couldn't agree more. And so if nothing else, I hope you walk away from this talk inspired to tell the story that you wrote down in your notes app 10 years ago, because like Rainbow Hollow was for me, because chances are, if it sticks with you for that long, it'll stick with someone else. But when in doubt, just remember, nothing has changed, even as everything around you does. Please be in touch. Thank you for being such a great audience. Thank you, Upscale.